As soon as mom leaves table, waitress lips note to husband. When she came back from the bathroom she saw what her waitress had done. She couldn't believe that this girl had the nerve to do what she did. She didn't want to cause a scene in the restaurant, but she knew she couldn't let this go. She needed to speak up. However, as she approached the table the waitress turned and left in a hurry. She immediately confronted her husband and demanded to know what the note the waitress had slipped him said. He handed her the note and she could barely hold back tears as she read what the waitress had written. It's not easy being a parent, especially not a mom. This was something that Jackie Johnson Smith discovered firsthand once she had children. However, the experience she had at a Des Moines, Iowa pizzeria was unlike anything she had ever experienced. While having dinner with her husband at the pizzeria, Jackie witnessed the waitress secretly slipping her husband a note. Needless to say, she was furious. However, upon reading the note she simply couldn't believe what she was seeing. Jackie was a woman who took no nonsense from anybody. This was due, in part, to the fact that she had severed in the military and had developed a fairly thick skin. Jackie was not only in the military, but she was also a very devoted mother. However, the day a waitress surreptitiously slipped her husband a note would be a day she would never forget. The note in question left this tough as nails military hero in tears. But what could she have done to get under Jackie's skin like that? As romantic as it sounds, being a mother can be a very unglamorous job. Most of the time you feel far from sexy. This due to the fact you will spend most of your time tired, dealing with a mess, and being there for your children at all times, no matter what. Jackie wasn't blind or stupid either. She knew that her husband was an attractive man and that he drew many looks from other women. For the most part, she ignored those thoughts and didn't let it bother her. However, something about their waitress caused warning bells to go off. Jackie was already becoming worried. She knew that after 3 kids, not only had her energy and body changed, but so had their relationship. It was of course understandable that her physique would change, but that wasn't all that bothered her. Her body wasn't the only thing that had changed, however. After many years together as well as 3 kids, Jackie had felt their relationship change over time. She couldn't help but wonder if her husband wanted a change altogether. Normally she ignored these thoughts, but tonight she had cause for her suspicions. Jackie and Tom had decided to have a much-needed date night again for a change. With 3 kids, one of whom had only recently been born, time for things like that was hard to find. However, they were determined. So as a family, all 5 of them went out to a local pizzeria. Everything was going well but once they got to the restaurant, the youngest grew difficult and niggly. Jackie knew that it was time for her baby to feed, so she didn't hesitate. However, as she breastfed her baby she could feel all eyes on her. Especially their waitresses. The waitress kept walking by, and I was worried she didn't want me nursing in the restaurant, Jackie would recall. The way the waitress behaved was unnerving, and Jackie was certain that this girl was judging her. However, the waitress was not judging her at all. In fact, it wouldn't be until Jackie intercepted the offending note from her husband that she found out what was going on. The reality left Jackie in total shock and tearing up. Jackie became increasingly aware of the sidelong glances that she was getting from the waitress and it was slowly starting to make her feel more and more uncomfortable. Jackie could only assume that she didn't approve of her breastfeeding in the restaurant. It was clear that this waitress had something on her mind, but she simply wouldn't say anything. This simply annoyed Jackie further. The girl simply kept pacing up and down until she finally saw her opportunity, and that's when she made her move. Jackie knew she had to do what she had to do. However, her waitress's stares were beginning to make her feel uncomfortable. She noticed how intently she was watching. And then, she saw the way they locked eyes. There was something going on here. She just didn't know what. Feeling emotional, Jackie began to get up. But she had no idea what the waitress was planning on doing in her absence. Jackie excused herself from the table. During this time her husband had asked for the bill. As soon as she was gone, the waitress swooped in. Slyly, she slipped Jackie's husband a sneaky little note. His reaction was everything. What he didn't know was that Jackie saw everything. And at that moment, her heart sank. Then, her feeling gave way to another emotion entirely, pure rage. She slung her baby over her hip and stormed over. Her husband still held his phone and the incriminating note in his hand. And she was ready for a fight. What had sent Jackie into such a rage was how her husband had reacted to the note. Instead of simply getting rid of the evidence, he immediately took out his phone. She was incredulous. Jackie couldn't help but feel as though he had had enough of playing dad. And now, all her insecurities were confirmed. She felt her world fall apart as she stood there, watching. Well, what was she going to do about it? Jackie was outraged. How dare another woman move in on her man in her absence? Her mind was racing. She couldn't imagine what judgmental note was scrawled on the slip. What hurt more, however, was that her husband immediately took out his phone. Was he really going to save some random woman's number in front of her? Jackie demanded to see the letter. But when she looked at it, she just began to weep. Not only had the waitress given her husband a special discount, but the note was also about Jackie breastfeeding in public. Jackie was used to being the subject of controversy, but nobody had ever commented directly on her feeding her baby at their restaurant before. Feeling stunned and emotional, Jackie couldn't hold back the floodgates any longer. As Jackie stared at the slip, hot tears rolled down her face. She could not believe what she was reading. Jackie was overcome with emotion. She sunk into her seat and took it in. Of all of the notes to be passed, she did not expect this one. But the note did more than evoke emotion. It inspired Jackie to do something. Jackie felt so overwhelmed by the waitress's gesture that she took to social media to tell everyone how she had been treated. She knew that breastfeeding in public had become an extremely hot-button issue, but she was still surprised by the feedback she received from Facebook users. "I have breastfed 3 children, I have breastfed them in countless places, both pleasant and unpleasant, discreetly and out in the open," she began. "I have gotten many looks and stares, but tonight erases any negativity I have ever received. I ate at Frong's for the first time tonight. Having a fussy baby, I nursed him for a while in the booth and eventually left the table early as to not disrupt the restaurant," Jackie's Facebook post continued. "The waitress gave this receipt to my husband. I was speechless and emotional." So, what did the note say? Bodhi had been a waitress for a while. And through her years of service, she had seen how breastfeeding moms were treated. She understood their plight. And it made her so mad that people judged women for just wanting to feed their baby. So, when she saw how cool and calm Jackie was, she had to do something. So she wrote a note on the bill. "I bought one of your pizzas, please thank your wife for breastfeeding." Jackie took the stairs in her stride. But what she did afterward was even more amazing. When Tom pulled out his phone, his wife had expected the worst. However, he merely wanted to capture a shot of the powerful message. Jackie now understood this. And she decided to do the same. Jackie took a photo of the slip. And when she shared it on social media, the response was overwhelming. People praised Bodhi and Jackie equally. Bodhi had made a massive impression on the public. But her actions birthed a beautiful movement. Thanks to Bodhi and Jackie, a breastfeeding awareness was starting to grow. Too long had moms been subjected to awkward stares. People seem unable to comprehend the concept of breastfeeding. Jackie showed moms it is okay to be bold. And Bodhi showed that out there will be cheerleaders who support their choice to feed. It still isn't a comfortable topic, but all awareness is good awareness. And that's exactly what Jackie wants to share. It's rare to get such positive feedback for breastfeeding, even though it is a totally natural thing for a mother to do. Bodhi, the waitress, later said, "I noticed Jackie nursing and was so thrilled she did it. I tried not to stare because I didn't want to seem creepy or make her feel uncomfortable, but I felt like doing jumping jacks. After dealing with people's reactions for so long, it was like the universe was giving me a pat on the back. I was too stunned to go back inside and thank the waitress," Jackie said. Later, Jackie visited Bodhi to thank her in person. "Although I don't need a pat on the back for feeding my child, it sure felt amazing. It is amazing how we women can make each other feel when we empower each other." Since the incident, Jackie and Tom have been stronger than ever. Their little family made waves on social media. Today, they still have a resounding presence. But it's thanks to Jackie passionately standing for her beliefs. Who knew that 2 women could create such an impact? Between Bodhi and Jackie, they have allowed more moms to feel supported. Their legacy will definitely be passed on through this story. And the world thanks them for it.